Boss Bane.
People be like,
Ferocious.
people be like,
Unleash your inner furry with the Ferocious perk in World 0. But how good is Ferocious? Several weeks ago, weapon perks were revamped, and this changed which perks were best to use for weapons. These changes also resulted in angry players due to the weapons they spent months farming for becoming useless. My guild straight up disbanded because some people were so mad at the changes. But according to the optimized build tier list, Ferocious is the new best damage perk to use for classes like the Mage of Shadows, Necromancer, Warlord, and even Spear Archer. This is the highest damage perk. For example, against mobs with the perfect 0 weapons, I do 27,307 damage with Mob Slayer and 30038 damage with the Ferocious active on the Summoner's auto attacks. On the Mage of Shadows, I deal 262,579 damage with Mob Slayer and 288838 damage with Ferocious. Comparing the two attacks, it is a 10% damage increase, and the same goes for all classes when comparing Mob Slayer or Boss Bane to Ferocious. But the perk does come at a cost. In case you didn't know, Ferocious increases your damage every time you take damage. This means if you want the buff, you must consistently take damage, and each time you take damage, you gain 3 seconds of the buff for a maximum of 10 seconds. The reason this perk is so strong is because the perk has a cap of 40% instead of the 30% on Elite Assassin and Boss Bane, meaning the perk is 10% stronger than the other legendary perks. Additionally, it works on mobs and bosses, meaning you don't need to have 2 different weapons to swap depending on the weapon's enemy type. However, the perk is awkward to use for ranged classes. For melee classes like the Warlord and Necromancer, it's very easy to take damage because you're playing in melee, but for ranged classes like Mage of Shadows, you also have less health than Warlord, and it's hard to run into melee and take damage. Additionally, the perk is extremely rare and extremely expensive. But is it good? And the answer is yes. If you have Ferocious, you deal more damage than Boss Bane and Elite Assassin. For my testing, I did Aether Fortress on Nightmare Challenge mode and 310 with the Boss Bane Elite Assassin combo, and then I finished it in 303 with the Ferocious perk. For Mountain Pass, same case goes. For Elite Assassin and Boss Bane, I finished in 245, and with Ferocious, I finished in 233. However, the perk is still extremely gimmicky to use, and I really hate that the perk is tied to taking damage. I'm not a fan of the weapon perk at all, and I really don't like using it, but it is definitely viable for melee classes that are always getting hit, like Necromancer and Warlord. But I honestly don't think it's worth using on ranged classes like Spear Archer, Mage of Shadows, and potentially the up-and-coming Hunter class. Personally, I prefer to just use the old weapons because I already have them. I'm not going to go out and spend all my coins on making new Ferocious weapons. Or I've also been testing Vampiric, and I actually kind of like Vampiric. I don't have a perfect Vampiric weapon yet, so I haven't done a testing for this video, but I did get a semi-perfect one made, and the combo with Burn Chance and Vampiric is actually not that bad. For the Mountain Pass dungeon, I actually finished it in 234, which is only 1 second slower than the Ferocious perk, and it's honestly not that bad. So if you can't get your hands on Ferocious, I just use Vampiric. It's pretty good, and it's also usable in Infinite Tower. On another note, I think the changes to perks are really bad. I understand the developers want to change the way gearing works. I don't think this is the way to go about it. If you look at the player-based numbers, this is on Rollimons. On March 24th, the game peaked at 5k active concurrent players, and what came out on this day? The Necromancer class. Comparing this to now, with after all the changes, the game hasn't peaked past 2k active players, but I mean, at least we get some golden pets, am I right? Personally, I think the combat in World 0 is the best part of the game. I like the class system a lot. I think the classes play really smoothly and they're fun to play, but it's just a little disappointing when the developers come in and focuses all their updates onto cash grab cosmetics. But that's enough for today. TLDR, Ferocious is the best damage perk, and it's really good on melee classes, but it's a bit hard to use on ranged, and it might be better to just make a Vampiric weapon so you can use Vampiric and Infinite Tower. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribe. Thank you.